Step 5 of the Tutorial 8 review assignments asks us to perform several tasks. Now the first 4 seem like they might be pretty easy, but a key to getting full credit on this particular exercise, especially this step, is to do exactly what is asked. And we're asked to enter formulas using the defined names that we created in step 3. And we're going to enter formulas using the defined names to calculate the rental bill. Remember, in step 3, we defined names for cells B4, B5, B6, and B7. In step 5, we're asked to use those names in formulas for cells F6, F7, F9, and F10. So it is fairly simple, but instead of using equals B4, you're going to use the defined name, equal customer. And you'll do the same thing for cells F7, F9, and F10. In cell F6, we're asked to enter a formula to make the data in this cell equal to the data that is in the defined cell customer. So instead of saying equal B4, we say that this is equal to customer. We'll type the same formula, the same type of formula in cell F7, F9, and F10. Again, those are the simple ones. It gets a little more complicated in cell H9, where we want to set H9 equal to the charge per day, which depends on the type of car entered in cell B5 and the rate table. We're given the hint to use the VLOOKUP function. Let's nest the VLOOKUP function inside an if-error function. That way, if there's invalid data or bad data entered, then we will have a message, or in my example, nothing will show up. Either good data will show up or nothing will show up. So let's go to cell H9 and take a look at the formula. Again, here's the VLOOKUP function, and it is nested inside the if-error function. And notice a little smart tip or tool tip that pops up reminding us how to use the if-error function. It is discussed in the in the tutorial. The first argument of the if-error function is the value that's going to be tested, and the second argument is if that value is in error. So for this particular if-error function, the VLOOKUP function is the first argument, and if the VLOOKUP results in bad data, then the quotation, which means nothing, will show up if there is bad data. Okay, so that's the if-error function. Now let's look specifically at the VLOOKUP function. The VLOOKUP function has 3 or 4 arguments. In our case, we have 4. The first argument of the VLOOKUP function is the lookup value. So we're going to use the value that's in the type car cell, and we're going to compare that value to the second argument, which is the rental rates. That's a table array. Remember, the rental rates is that lookup table that we defined down here in A12 to C16. The third argument of the VLOOKUP is the column index number. In other words, in our table array, rental rates, we're going to compare the type car data to the data that's in the second column of our table. Our second column would be the charge per day. And then our fourth argument, false, indicates that we want an exact match. So we've got to come up with an exact match, good data, for using our VLOOKUP function, or our if-error function will display nothing. So that's the VLOOKUP for cell H9 in step 5 of the review assignments. Cell H10 will use the exact same type of function, or VLOOKUP function nested in the if-error function. But notice the only difference is that column index number. What that's telling us is we're going to get the charge per mile, the third column of our lookup table. Next, we're going to make cell F12 equal to the rental amount, which equals the number of days rented multiplied by the charge per day plus the miles driven multiplied by the charge per mile. Again, using an if-error function, we're simply going to grab data from the named cells and do the math as described in our exercise on page EX 476 in the book. Next is cell F13, the state tax. Again, we're simply going to make this equal to the sales tax multiplied by the rental amount. Again, notice that they asked us in the instructions to use the named or defined cell names, not the actual cell column and number. Cell F14, the amount due, is equal to the rental amount plus the sales tax. Again, it does tell us use the if-error function in cells H9, H10, F12, F13, and F14. And that's it for step 5 of the review assignments for tutorial 8.